Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. Today, let's install the cross beams for the rear controls and then get to work on the ailerons. For all you people that have watched that last video number 26, how I got the push rods installed. Now trust me, this is I think it's going to work, but you're going to have to trust me on this one, guys. I was going to put cross beams across towards the front, like a third of the way back, and then 2/3 of the way back through the open end of the fuselage. I was going to have one set up towards the front and one set towards the back. So when I came back down to the shop this morning, just to get the ball rolling on this one, I decided to do a test. So I kept the elevators locked into position with just a, it's around here somewhere. Pretty much what I did is I took a piece of balsa and just clamped it down to it. That way it couldn't flex up and down. So the elevators were locked into position. And as I moved the servos back and forth, there was almost no flexing. The flexing was very, very little. And I didn't go under full load because I didn't want to break anything. I was just doing some testing. So what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to put these things halfway back. It's just going to be one across the middle. Just because I'm trying to minimize the amount of weight in the back, and I think this is going to work just fine. Now the way these things are made, as you can see, it looks like one piece kind of in a way, but then when they separate, hey, this is what they do. So I'm just going to try to hold this and balance out to the best of my abilities. The gap on either side is about 5.5 millimeters. So that's giving me plenty of play for everything to slide through, because remember, those little tubes, carbon fiber tubes, are 5 millimeter outside diameter. So this is cut for that. So as these go in, and this will be glued up against the verticals, the side vertical posts. So, and with this gap in there. And then what's going to fit in between the rods are just going to be, I'll probably rip down a piece of this to whatever height it needs to be to fill this gap. And then I'll just cut them into small little pieces. And all that's going to be there for is, this is going to be there to pretty much stabilize the up and down, where these little pieces that are going to go in between here in that gap is going to control the side-to-side play. So I think with getting all of that glued into position, we'll test it again. I think that's going to be fine just the way it is, because like I said, these things are not made for torsion. It's made to push back and forth in a straight line. So I don't think I'm going to need to put two in. I think we're going to be fine with just the one. So let me go ahead and get this camera set up back there, and I'm just going to kind of hopefully hold everything into position so you're going to see how it's going to get glued into place. And then let's get it glued into place. Now the way these things are going to line up, because the one for the rudder, which is the top one right up here, it stands a little bit higher up, hence why we've got that little bit of a riser. It's that far up above the top of the other ones. So this is going to get slid into position. I do have some marker lines here just to get me lined up for the first one. So that will be in that position when it gets glued in. And right now you can't see it, but they're not really touching that wood. I mean, they're so close. And that's going to work out just fine for me. And then the top piece, when it comes in, is going to be the exact opposite direction. So then what we're doing is it's going to come on in here, and as we slide it down, get everything properly lined up. That's why I got to have the bottom one locked into position properly before I get to the top one. And then that part is going to sit just like that. So now we've got the up and down taken care of. So what I'm going to need for a little teeny cross brace, if you want to call it that way, this might be the right size, but I'm going to give some very good measurement on it. One side's going to come on in and slide into position here. It doesn't need to be a full length. It just needs to be a little block, about that big. It's not going to be that big of a block. That'll get slid into position just to hold this one from wanting to flex out, because this little side towards the middle where it steps down, that's going to keep it from going that way. And then for the other three, it'd be the same thing. Just cut out a small little piece, glue it into position, and that will keep the elevator rods from wanting to flex outwards. So let me go ahead and get this thing glued into position. I'm going to bring it back and we'll get everything set up for a test. All right, as you can see, everything is functioning. Let me bring her on this side. Let me show you the couple little things I'm going to have to go ahead and address as we go along. This side over here, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it. If I can keep my hand still, there's a little bit of flexion going on in here. It's the way that the carbon fiber tubes are rubbing on the ball sticks. It's really flexible regardless. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have to go ahead and file these things out just a little bit. The bottom one's not too bad. I got to come forward on this side just a little bit. The rear is going to be okay. This side over here is there's no issues at all with it. So it's just going to be a matter of me spending just a few minutes taking care of this. This will be all getting taken care of when I'm starting to do the final sand and prep for covering. I will be covering all this when that time comes. Now coming up to this center section where everything goes through that little teeny brace. It's very smooth. There's nothing flexing down here, and see how well you can hear this. There's that 1/2 millimeter or less of play in these things. Yeah, you can kind of hear that one. Then you can kind of hear this one too. So the little bit of extra room going through to make sure everything's smoothly is fine. So because like I said, the whole thing is what carbon fiber tubes are made for. So I don't know how well you can see this. Everything's looking pretty good. Right down there, you should be able to see a little bit of flexing out. That's because with the servos going through the rotation, they're going to do that a little bit. That we're okay with. So as everything goes to the back, I'm pretty happy with that. So just as long as it doesn't keep me awake in the middle of the night, we're going to be good with this.
Several days later.
Let me give you guys a little heads up on where I am at. And this is the fun part of this build, because you're wondering why they did what they did and how well this is going to make sense, but it will make sense once I kind of show you. All right, today's conundrum begins right here. Now, where the end strut goes in, just to give you a good idea, it's going to go in about here on this end and down here on this end. This is going to sit right here, and then of course you've got your attachment points where it's going to put the 440 going through to hold it in a position. Now, the problem I'm having is that right here, here's where it goes in. So this is the outside line, or we're going to call that the edge or the border, where we have to keep the servo wire in between, so that way we're not hitting the end struts, at least the rear part of it. And right about there. All right, so what we've got is we've got about 3/8 of an inch of space to work with around the servo. Now the servo is going to go down there, and you're going to say that looks like it's going to be pretty close. It is pretty close. The only thing we have to watch out for is this rear post here, because the attachment to 440, we're not going to hit that at all. So the whole thing is to get this thing set in so that way it's going to make me happy. Now if you look straight down on the top of it, it's right about there. So we're not going to hit. This here is inside probably maybe a 32nd of an inch, not quite a 16th, but pretty close to it. But that is the most outside part of this. So as it goes forward and backward, it's going to pull it farther away from it. So this will work. Now what I may do for my only recourse to this, instead of going 1/4 inch here, I may slide that over and come in to an 1/8 inch, and then just slide everything over that way to give myself a little more room. Not necessary. I may still do that, but I will keep you guys in the know on exactly what I'm going to do with this. So I've already got these parts already set up, and this is where this is going to drop down inside. No sense in fighting with it right now. Let's just go ahead and show you. So these are designed to slide in just like this, and of course this cable goes that way. So what I will be doing at this point in time, because I'm not too much worried about the cable yet, I want to get everything set up so that I can get the little framework built around this, and then this is ready to be screwed in. So there's not too much to do to get the ailerons hooked up. So pretty much just get this thing into position and have the holes drilled out where this is sitting in position, and then we pretty much know we're coming all the way back to about this place right here on the aileron, and then this will have 2 screws go through, and it's pretty much done. All I got to do is just get some, because they may have given me extra on these, and I believe they did. But I do have the pieces that I got from they're around here somewhere, the Dubro, and this is what I'm going to use there in place of that. So I'll get everything on this ready to go, and bring you guys on back to show you where I'm at. All right, we do have the servo in. Everything's ready to go. We come on back, and boom, there it is. This is not just resting here. It's actually glued into position. Masking tape, a little bit of glue in between. Holds this thing in position, so when I come on with the drill, it's going to hold everything in position. So I've got that side ready to go. And down here, this side ready to go as well. So let me get these holes drilled in, throw some screws in, and let's get ready to start making the rods. Here's where we're at. As you can see, we're touching up in the front, but that doesn't go that far. What I decided to do is I decided to come back, move this a little bit farther that way than where I originally had it lined up. And if you can see by those little teeny dots right down there, it didn't move over much at all. So what I decided to do was go ahead, because I wanted to go a little bit more throw on this. Instead of coming in and peeing in the safe zone right about there, I decided to be able to move mine all the way out to that point. So that way it's going to give me a longer throw on the servo, which means a longer throw back here on the control horn. Because the hinge line, the way this thing's set up, it's not set up like your atypical, where the hinge point's going to be right here, where this connects to the coupler connects to the control horn. Because this one's farther back, I decided I want a little bit more throw on it, because I'm going to still have to decide how I want to work with these. Because as like with the Piper Cub, the way it works, it actually does more down than it does up. So this is going to have to be the same thing. I'm going to have to be able to control how much down I have in accordance to how much up on that wingtip over there. So I decided that this is going to be the smartest route to go. And because I don't have the little connector, I need to solder this into place so I can do another 440 right there. I'm going to have to go run over to Dubro tomorrow during the hours of work and pick some more of those things up, because I'm completely out of stock. I thought I had a bunch of those things, so I'll get a bunch more for future projects. So the little pieces I'm going to be getting with a little teeny solder on. It's little brass extension. It's going to solder onto into the wire itself. And I wish I had one to show you, because I had already put it on there. It's just going to be put on, I'll cut this to whatever length I need to. Go ahead, scuff it up a little bit, tin it, put the brass piece on top of it, solder it in place, and it's done. Then it's just going to be a matter of just putting another clevis on one side and hook it up, and then we'll do a test on it. So now would be a really good time to go ahead and call this a video. So I'll see you guys next time. I'm back down in the shop.